Hello friends, so where do I even start today? We had our Torah group this morning and fascinating discussion. We talked a lot about this week's Torah portion, but we also talked about Ephesians 5 and Proverbs 31 and how they are really one and the same. So of course everyone knows Proverbs 31:10 is normally where people start, but if you go to the very beginning, it says the words, 31:1, the words of King Lemuel, the prophecy with which his mother disciplined him or instructed him or taught him. And that word for discipline means it's yasar, and it means that she turned his head. So she was turning his head toward the things of God, which, by the way, yasar is the root word of the word musar, which is corrective instruction, and that's all throughout the Proverbs. It's also found in Proverbs 1 today. So we were looking at who can find a capable wife. Her value is far beyond that of pearls. Her husband trusts her from his heart, and she will prove a great asset to him. She works to bring him good, not harm, all the days of her life. Her husband, verse 23, is known at the city gates when he sits with the leaders of the land. Her husband, too, verse 28, he praises her. Many women have done wonderful things, but you surpass them all. So we were looking through Ephesians 5, specifically about the word where it says submit or subject to. And what we find when we really look at this word and look at the context is the word in Greek is hupotasso, and a good Hebrew equivalent for that, I submit to you, would be the Hebrew word anah, which means to afflict and humble oneself. Its parent root means a close, watchful eye, or the furrow and depression in between one's eyes when they look intensely at something. It's used when God tells Hagar to submit herself under the hand of Sarah, and when God asked Pharaoh, "How long will you refuse to submit to me?" or "How long will you refuse to look intently into my face?" In this state of humility, by his Spirit, we can find deep respect and thus give weight to another. So we were looking at the concept, what does submit mean? We see in, it's verse 20, verse 21, it says, be subject to one another in the fear of Christ. Another way to say that is humble yourselves under one another in the reverential fear of the Messiah. In verse 22, wives, under your own husbands, or wives, your own husband, as to the Lord, because that word in the Greek is actually not there. Hupotasso is not actually in Ephesians 5:22. So you go further and you see that husbands are to love their wives as Christ loved the church. Well, what does that look like? Well, let's back up to hupotasso. However you say that. I know I'm totally butchering that word. But to humble yourself. So anytime you see that word submit or subject to, think humble yourself. Now that is a fruit of God's Spirit, is it not? When you look at Galatians 5:22, you start with love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. That word gentleness, often another way to look at it, another way of translating is humility. So the Spirit-governed life is one of humility, okay? So humbling yourself under one another. So think about that. So we talked about that today. And what would it look like if we humbled ourselves under one another in the fear of the Messiah? Now, if you back up to Ephesians, if you read all of Ephesians 5, it starts out, be imitators of God. It says, therefore, be imitators of God. And then it talks about we are children of light. And what does light do? Light exposes us, right? It's a beautiful, freeing thing to be exposed by the light, okay? Because then we can see, others can see, and help us move to where we need to be. So light and exposure are very good. So we are children of light, okay? Humbling ourselves, we're instructed to humble ourselves under one another in the fear of the Messiah. So I love where it says, so the husbands are to love their wives as their own bodies, verse 28. He who loves his own wife loves himself. For no one has ever hated his own flesh, but here's how Christ loves his bride and how he is instructing the husbands to love their wives. But he nourishes. Ektrepho is the word. That's another way to look at that is he increases. He increases her, okay? He doesn't diminish her. He increases her. And cherishes, okay? Thalpo means he keeps warm. He is tenderly caring for her. So he is increasing her. He's careful to increase her and to tend and warmly tend to her, okay? So that's one way to love his wife as Christ loves the church, okay? And then it says, for this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and shall be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. The mystery is great, but I'm speaking with reference to Christ and the church. Nevertheless, each individual among you is to love his own wife, even as himself. We know that love, again, means ahava, to give, okay? To give of himself in the way of nourishing, increasing her, and warmly tending to her needs, okay? And then, and this was something I found fascinating, and the wife must see to it that she respects her husband. Now, I could say so much about that, and we talked about this today, but one of the things that I want to talk about is this whole notion of respect. So here are some of my notes. So if submit means to humble yourself under, okay, so keep that in mind. How do we see to it that we respect him and that he becomes a man of respect, right? So that's where my mind was going. We are to respect, the word used there is phobeo, like phobia, right? And it means in this context to fear, reverence, to stand in amazement and awe. Its Hebrew equivalent would be yareh, meaning to stand in awe at the presence of a great sight. Wow, your husbands are like, yeah, that's the way I want her to look at me. Okay, so do you feel that way about your husband? Why or why not? Could it be something you are or are not doing? Listen up, ladies. Our actions, our words, and our looks, that's all of our conduct, okay, will either build him up, Proverbs 14:1 and 1 Peter 3, okay, or tear him down. The good wife, remember she does him good all the days of her life, makes him respectable in the eyes of others. Proverbs 31:23, he is known at the city gates. So what are your actions, words, and looks saying to others about him? What are they saying to him and what are they saying about others? So then I went somewhere else with this, and I'll kind of end with this. Like I said, there's so much I could say, but these are just very few highlights. I was like, where on earth in Scripture is there anything in the Scripture, specifically in the New Covenant, is Paul or anyone else instructing him to respect her? Because my thought was, she's told in Titus 2 that she is to be involved in training. Why? So that she learns, so that she's trained how to love her husband and her children. So we need to learn to love. So I was like, well, does he need to respect us? Does that say anywhere in scripture? And I wanted to see the context, wanted to find, there was nothing. I could find nothing where the husband has to respect her. And that got me thinking. I was like, why is that? Why is that, Lord? And here are my notes on that. Phobeo, or stand in awe of her. I don't think it was nowhere that I could find in the scripture. And I was, why? I think it's because, this is my opinion, okay? He doesn't struggle with that. He doesn't struggle with that at all. I think man already stands in awe of her. Okay? When you think about the word respect, another thing that I think about is to give someone weight. And that's often what we don't do with our husbands. Give them weight. Give their words weight. Give their opinions weight. Correct? So we're instructed, see to it that she respects her husband. Okay? So follow me here. He already stands in awe of you. Okay? Think back to you and your star-crossed lover first fell in love. Have you considered Proverbs 31 in its fullness? He already stands in awe of her. He trusts her with his heart and his mind. He is known and respected because of her. His tongue is praising her all the time, saying, a great many daughters accomplish things with great efficiency. But you ascend, shoot forth, and are set way above them all. Now, who doesn't want their husband to talk about them like that, okay? So I would challenge you as a woman, are your words, your thoughts, your actions, your looks, are they building him up and respecting him in his eyes and in the eyes of others? So, because he's already in awe of you. So, let's not give him any reason to not be in awe of you, okay? So, those are just my thoughts today. He doesn't diminish her. He loves her and increases her light and warmly tends to her. And she respects him as she stands in awe and amazement at him, okay? She loves him. And that is how she does him good all the days of her life. So anyway, Shabbat Shalom. I hope you guys have a great day. These are just a few of my notes today. I hope you find great value in them and that your marriage is increasing and beautiful. I actually called this today the dancing flames of marriage, the beautiful dancing flames of marriage. What does it look like in our marriages when we imitate God and we humble ourselves? So those are my notes today. Hope you have a great day, great weekend, and Shabbat Shalom.